welcome. I'm here with a mother's love who will rip your face off.
We're talking about love. Everyone who's a mother knows that you threaten a child and we'll rip your faces off, right? So, no, seriously, we're talking about love. Today we're talking about Phileo, right? Which is Phileo, Philea. You say Phileo, I say Philea. It's platonic love, friendship, right?
Yes.
You're going to
So
be
Philadelphia is the city of
brotherly love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in previous episodes for Love Week, we talked about passionate love, also known as Eros. We talked deeply about relationships and how you two make it work in your relationship, not just romantically and intimately, but also, most importantly, you know, on a friendship level. How do you two communicate day to day that helps you be better partners and, you know, better for your children? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, and that's interesting because I think part of what adds to our relationship, even what adds to the passion ultimately, is that we are such good friends.
Right.
Like you're the person I call when anything happens. I mean, probably much to your... Probably you don't always want me to do that, but that's what I do. So, I mean, anything happens and I call you. When something happens in your day, you call me. And so that, I think, ultimately bonds us even more. So, you know, I mean, so many people are mistaken, I think, about foreplay. Foreplay starts long before you guys are together in the bedroom, correct? Don't you think?
Well, for girls it does. For boys it starts immediately, whenever you're interested. Although, you know, our friend Dr. Earl.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. If your testosterone level is near normal, it doesn't take much from the women we love. But let's start with a review. There's one I really like that's appropriate here. It's called Can't Say Enough. I watched this particular podcast with my husband. We have experienced greater difficulty communicating successfully in the past. I found the information very appropriate to our problem. Thank you for the practical examples for change, for the betterment of our marriage, and for the encouraging way it was presented. The Brain Warriors Way truly has helped us understand and better live with each other using a healthy lifestyle.
I love that. That was my favorite book to write.
So, friendship, they're so important. When you're socially isolated, it actually increases your risk of not only depression, but also Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
And, you know, Natalie's our social media director, and the more kids actually spend on social media, the more they're lonely.
Right.
And the more they're depressed. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I mean, we talk a lot about gadgets and how addictive they are, and how easy it is to be consumed with social media and things that seem unattainable, and to focus on things that you don't have rather than be grateful for things that you do have. We talk a lot about, you know, gratitude and journaling and reminding yourself daily why you're on this planet, but also, you know, what you do every day that matters to you and, you know, and can help you in your life. And it's really easy to scroll on your Instagram and just be like, oh, this person's in the Bahamas, this person's getting married, this person's pregnant.
Oh, and look how perfect they look, by the way.
Yeah, oh, look how skinny they are. And I think it's really easy for people to focus on that and not be able to, like I said, kind of focus on what makes them special, what they value, and, you know, what their purpose is in the world. It gets really muddy, especially as a young adult.
Well, and the funny thing is even my daughter, who I think for her age is pretty grounded.
Yeah, absolutely.
She will do that. She'll start going through Instagram, and all of a sudden she'll see kids that she used to go to school with, and she's like, who looks like this?
Right.
Like, who looks, and then she'll start to automatically go, why do so many of these girls look like this? Like there's a significant number that are like posting pictures looking like sort of like supermodels. Yeah. And I laugh and I go, you know, honey, I used to do the same thing, but here's the truth. Supermodels don't look like supermodels.
Right.
Because in my day, in my era, they airbrushed them, right?
Yeah.
But now it's so much easier. You just download an app and you look perfect.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, but it's just like, and the
unattainable.
pressure to post pictures that look perfect is so high.
And the pressure to continually to post. So not even just to post pictures that are perfect, but to be present on social media. Like how many young kids do you know that don't utilize social media? I mean, can you really name any?
No.
And if you are that person that isn't utilizing social media, well, does that make you somewhat of an outcast and not fitting in?
It's funny.
I mean,
Jason Momoa took his family, like they live off the grid.
Yeah.
Like they don't have internet. His kids don't supposedly have, they don't have internet. They don't have, like.
We're talking about someone
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
lusting after.
Yeah.
I see.
But I just thought that was so fascinating because they didn't want their
But I
kids
want you
growing
to
up with
notice that does not bother me.
Well,
That
you
he
talk about
actually has
Scarlett.
a real thought.
Are you kidding me?
About someone else. Too often, people who are insecure take that as, oh, well, then you don't want me.
Oh, no.
And that causes all sorts of drama in relationships.
If that were true, then Scarlett and Amy Adams would be like, I'd be in big trouble because, no, I know your girls.
So what did I say to you on the way up on the elevator?
But here's the difference between me and you. I talk about Jason. With you, unfortunately, because of who you are, I'm sitting at home one day while you're traveling on a business trip, and all of a sudden my text comes through, and it's you with Scarlett Johansson. And I'm like, what? How does this happen to you? And you see the grin?
Yeah.
Do you see the grin?
He loves it.
Yeah.
No, it was an awesome picture.
Yeah, of course it was. So that's the difference.
And I remember leaving the interaction. She's very sweet. Going, my wife is so much prettier.
Aww. Totally not true, but so sweet that
No,
you would
that's
say
exactly
that.
what I told you, right?
Well, of course you told
And
me
I
that.
didn't make that up, right? I could have just gently not said
That's
anything.
so sweet. You're very sweet.
All right, friendship.
Yeah, but it's kind of, talking about a little bit what we just mentioned with social media and whatnot. One of the reasons why I wanted to do Relationship Week, and I think it's so important, we get so many questions on social media about this, but if you're an extrovert, dating seems a little bit more easy for you. You're a little bit more outgoing. It's easier to talk to people. But what if you're introverted? How does that kind of differ with the way that you start dating someone and start opening up to somebody? Because those things are, that's a different process. Tana, are you more introverted or extroverted? And Daniel, I think I kind of
it doesn't seem like it, but I'm more introverted. He's more extroverted.
It's not true.
It is.
It's not true.
No. So what you see, when I'm in public, you will see me, my personality will be outward, but my preference is to be home in my PJs, not around a lot of people. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And when I first meet people, I will appear confident, but a lot of what I will say is not deep initially.
Yeah.
And even when it is, it's sometimes I've already thought about it. Like it takes me time to trust people. Like I'm not just going to open up to everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with your background.
Oh yeah, I'm looking behind me. I'm looking around me. I want my back to the wall. I'm like, but I prefer being home.
Just so people know the difference. People think introverts are quiet and extroverts are loud. That's actually not it. It's where do you get your energy?
Home.
Do you get your energy from being around other people, or do you get your energy from being by yourself?
Yeah. Or just with your core people at home.
Yeah. Now I'm one of 7, so I was sort of trained. You had to go after the food on the table or there wouldn't be any.
Yeah, no, you can't. When you say you're going to share something with him, you have to protect your half.
That's really funny.
So, and the difference, so here's a perfect example. He loves New York. New York is exhausting for me. When we go to Hawaii, my idea of going to Hawaii is like going to Kauai where I can hike and be off the grid. Yeah. His idea of going to Hawaii is Waikiki. So, I mean, we're just very different that way. I want to go up to.
So how do we navigate it?
Well, because we respect each other enough. So we'll often do both. So,
give and take. So when you think about phileo or friendship love, is it mutual? And one of the ways you can tell is when you ask someone how they are. Do they just launch into all the problems in their life, or do they give you a short answer and then go, how are you doing? Yeah. That is so important because we've all been around those people that sort of drain our energy because it's not mutual. And for us, it's mutual. Mm-hmm. You often, how was your day? What are the stresses? And one of the rituals we do, so I make her pumpkin pie spice cappuccino in the morning. Mm-hmm. And we sit and talk, but we often start with, so what's going to be great about your day? So that little habit, the little tiny habit
I love
we talk
rituals.
about a lot. And then at dinner time or toward the end of the day, it's like, well, what went well for your day?
And it's okay to talk about things that didn't go well. But we want to, I like rituals because it really does set the foundation. It sets the sort of structure for how you guys behave as a family.
Right.
Right? It's...
So putting rituals in that are good, forget the satanic rituals. I've actually seen
What,
patients with
now,
that.
where did that come from?
That was-
Putting
yeah, that left
rituals
field a
that
little
are helpful.
Do you see what I deal with? Like, it's just the left field comments are just so bizarre sometimes.
I know. Our daughter started dating someone, and we go to brunch often on Sundays. And the conversation, he said yesterday, my brain just hurt because we ended up talking about the Dr. Oz segment I did with past life regression and channelers and all of that. So, but that's what friendship is. It's sharing and it's caring and it's mutual, right? When you're with someone and they go, how's your day? Immediately start thinking, I wonder how their day is as well.
Yeah, and it's really important. So, I mean, so often I've thought to myself, I don't really need to nurture friendships. But that's not true. Yeah. And I've thought that because, and the truth is I am really busy and my preference is to spend it with the people closest to me, my family. So the little bit of time I have, I want to spend with my family and, you know, my daughter and my husband. And then all of a sudden my daughter's not there one day. And I'm like, wait, what just happened? She grew up. She doesn't want to be with mom all the time. Yeah. So it really is important.
I know. And then you demanded I retire.
Yes. Only you didn't. You started working more. So then I'm like, whoa, okay. So it really is important to make sure, even if you don't have a ton of time, be sure you're nurturing certain friendships.
So before we finish this, when we're talking about friendship, love, I want you to quickly talk about mentors.
Oh, why they're so important?
Yeah.
So I think mentors are just critically important because I really like the idea that when you don't know what to do, when you're stuck, there's someone who does know, right? And so oftentimes I'll be talking to people or coaching someone and they just don't know how to start, where to start, what to do. And what you can do, I love what Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. So ever since I heard that in my 20s, I was like, oh, I'm just going to find someone who's doing what I want to learn how to do or who has accomplished what I want to accomplish. And I'm going to follow that person. And yep, I'm going to copy him. Yeah. So I'm just going to copy him because that's really important to be able to do. And so I have mentors in each area of my life. So business, spiritual, relationships, love, like I have mentors in each area. Because I think it's really important to be able to have something to strive for. And I often say I want to be the dumbest person in the room. Do not make a comment. I often say I want to be the dumbest person in the room. Right now is a good time to use your frontal lobes. But what I mean by that is I want my friends to be smarter than me, more giving than me, to be more successful than I am, because that gives me something to look up to strive for.
I like that.
You become like the people you hang out with. People are as contagious as this wicked flu that's been going around.
Yeah. But I also think it's important to be able to influence others and give back what you've learned.
Yes.
Great.
So.
Well, we're going to talk about other different kinds of love when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're here with Natalie, our social media director, and we're talking about love.
Who we love.
Yes, we do.
Interviewing us, and Natalie is part of our family. And in this podcast, we're going to talk about storge love, which is love for your family.
Mm-hmm. So I want to read a testimonial. I don't have my contacts in, so bear with me. Revolutionized my life by great sleep coach. I've been implementing many of the elements of the Brain Warrior's way. No artificial sugar, healthy fats, limit grains, no alcohol, no coffee. at least 8 hours of sleep every night, hydrating throughout the day, etc., into my daily lifestyle for the past half year, and I've noticed a tangible difference in my life. I'm very excited about the positive effects of this new healthy lifestyle. Thank you, Tana and Dr. Daniel Amen. I am a brain warrior. That is so awesome.
Love that.
So thank you. That's so cool.
And brain warriors, just for those of you who have forgotten or just jumped in the middle of this podcast, are people who are armed, prepared, and aware to win the fight of their life. And often the enemies of health actually live in your house.
Yep.
And what I've come to believe is you are modeling for your kids and your family health, or you are modeling illness based on the behaviors that you engage in.
Well, and that's so true, because kids do what you do, not what you say. Wouldn't it be so much easier if they just did what you said?
Yes.
But one of my pet peeves, one of my pet peeves is when parents constantly tell kids, don't be a follower. Don't be a follower. You know, be a leader. Don't do what other kids do. If they walked off a cliff, would you walk with them? Would you follow them? And then what do? I just had this happen with a health coach, actually, someone who's like a leader in her field. She went back to go visit her family and she's like, yeah, I ate really bad for the last couple of weeks. I'm like, why? And she's like, I just feel terrible. She goes, because I didn't want to make waves. I didn't want to make waves, and it's in the South, and my family cooks, you know, they use a lot of like fat and sugar and salt, and she's like, and just, you know, like really awful food, and she didn't want to make waves. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. So you didn't want to make waves. You did what everyone else was doing because you didn't want to hurt their feelings. Isn't that kind of like peer pressure that you tell your kids not to give into?
Well, that was going to be my first question, is that, you know, in the Amen household, as I've gone over multiple times, you know, everybody at work and everybody in your household, we all eat like a brain warrior because we feel better when we do.
Mm-hmm.
Not because we have to, because we feel better. And that was my first question with you, because I know when I first started Tana, Chloe wasn't a brain warrior necessarily. She wanted to eat what other kids were eating, and you know, it took her.
She didn't want to be different.
She didn't want to be different, and so talk a little bit about that.
So it's interesting. She didn't want to be different, and then she went extreme. I mean, she went like even more so than us. She was very rigid because she's got that brain. She's got a rigid brain.
Yeah.
So then she went extreme, and she ate so healthy, like so extreme. But she found that was actually hard for her too. Mm-hmm. So now I think kids do this. They kind of go back and forth. She's 15 and a half.
Yeah.
Now she's a little bit more middle of the road. She eats really healthy, but not all the time. And I don't push her now. Now she's old enough. She's got the philosophy. I eat the way we eat healthy. We eat the way we eat. I don't put it in the house, but I also don't ride her about it because she knows, and she generally does eat healthy. So if she doesn't eat something, you know, if she doesn't eat perfectly, you know, like the way we eat all the time, she knows how she feels after she does it. I don't need to ride her anymore.
Well, it's because you laid the foundation of this is what we believe, this is what we do. You know, I would love for you to do this, and you know, if that happens, that's great. But if it doesn't, you know, that's your choice.
You know the consequences.
You know
and we don't spend money on bad food.
Yeah.
Because
we love our family.
You know, I'm working on The End of Mental Illness, my new book, for next year, and Drew Carey actually has this great quote. So Drew Carey went from being very overweight and unhealthy to he lost a lot of weight and became super healthy.
Yeah.
And he said, eating crappy food isn't a reward. It's a punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he gets it.
Yeah.
And one thing that is interesting, so my daughter got, you know, she's a teenager, so she's getting a little salty now and then. No, she's actually really good. But she got frustrated with me because she's like, so let me get this straight. Because I told her, I'm like, I buy food at the house. You spend your allowance when you're out. Because I know when she's out with her friends, she's buying whatever she wants, and she can buy whatever she wants. I'm not going to like follow her and tell her what to buy.
Yeah.
But I know they're going to fast food places and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, because that's what they can afford too. Mm-hmm. And so she said, so let me get this straight. You'll pay for everything when I'm with you. You'll let me order DoorDash when I'm at home. But I have to use my money when I'm out. You won't give me money to go spend when I'm out. And I go, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Glad that was clear. I'm glad that was clear because now you use your allowance. If you're going to buy crappy food, it's on you. That's on you. I'm not going to buy that for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it's not about you. That ultimately it's not. It's about generations of you.
Yeah.
I mean, from an evolutionary standpoint, we're basically programmed to pass on our genes. But are you going to pass on healthy genes or illness genes?
Yeah.
And nobody's thinking like this in our society. But Haven, our granddaughter, who's now 9 months, it's so freaking cute.
Oh my God.
She's just like
She's just
stolen
yummy.
my heart.
Yummy.
And when she was born, when little girls are born, when both of you were born with all of the eggs in your ovaries that you'll ever have. And your habits, so the stresses you're under, the food you eat, the environmental toxins, whatever, are turning on or off genes in those ovaries, making illness or health more likely, not only in you, but in Haven's babies and grandbabies. Teenagers need to know that their behavior's not just about them.
Well, and that's one thing Chloe mentioned to me. She said, it's not fair. She's starting to see some of my traits emerge in her. And I was not healthy growing up. She's way healthier than I was. She's not sick like I was all the time. But she does have some issues that I had. So the gun's loaded for her. But she does notice that she pulls the trigger or not by her lifestyle.
Right.
So exercise helps her, eating healthy helps her a lot. And she's like, why is this fair that I ended up getting, your genes that kind of suck sometimes? And I'm like, that's the sad part. You do get my genes. And I'm like, but you do get to turn on or
But
off.
she also gets the intelligence, the kindness, the drive, all of those good things. Right?
Yeah, thank you. That's very
compared
sweet.
to your mom, you can look at some of the negative stuff, but you can also look at her drive, her ability to overcome.
Well, I got that from my mom.
Adversity. Right. No, that's what I'm saying. It's, we can all look and
it's easy to
this
focus.
Great saying I do on with my patients every day, where you bring your attention determines how you feel. And so for me, I could bring my attention to some of my critics who've been fairly brutal over the years, or I can bring my attention to the tens of thousands of stories we have at Amen clinics of people who've gotten better. And, it just determines how you feel.
And that is probably one of the most important things in family relationships. You just said it. Because talking about family relationships, that's one of the things that can probably trigger me faster than anything. Family relationships. It's hard for me because of my family and where, sort of the chaos and the drama and it's hard. And I don't always want to help. I just don't. I'm just being honest. I wake up sometimes and I'm like, no, not today, not doing it. And that's if I let my brain go to the negative part, you should be, I should all over myself. You should be responsible for your own life. I do. It's like, you should be responsible for your own life. Why can't you why can't you take care of yourself? You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Why is it my responsibility? Why is this my job? Or I can shift that. And this is where you're really good because I will just go down that path and just go on a rant. But you're very good at trying to help me redirect. Usually it works. Sometimes every now and then it doesn't. You just need to let me rant. And then I get over it. But you're very good about helping me redirect and think about the positives.
And timing is so important, right? Because sometimes when people are really wound up, you need to listen.
Let it go.
You need to just listen and not tell them, well, you shouldn't feel that way. And that's when we often talk about active listening, that repeat back what you hear. And someone like Tana, who's emotionally charged, but so bright, will actually talk herself into
I need 20
the right
minutes.
thing.
I need 20 minutes. I know that's my time frame. So it's like, don't try and stop me.
We think about storge love or love of your family is you're modeling health or illness, that know what you want. I had someone this morning who had a very important meeting. And before she went into the meeting, I go, what's the goal? She goes, what do you mean? I said, what's the goal of the meeting? You want to think about that ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Use the prefrontal cortex, focus, forethought, judgment, but planning, use that so that when you're in perhaps a difficult meeting, you know what the goal is, so that your behavior can be goal directed. So if I just reacted out of every thought I had with Tana or Chloe or my other kids or my friends, you know, I'd end up saying things that I shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Still do sometimes. But if I know the goal,
Yes.
kind, caring,
So
loving,
important.
supportive, passionate relationship, then I'm going to inhibit. I had somebody in my office this weekend who said, I'm brutally honest. And my comment was, well, that's usually not helpful. You don't want to say the first thing that comes to your mind because it is often insensitive.
Yeah.
It's often painful. It's often hurtful. You want to go, so what's the goal in our relationship? And does my behavior, it's totally selfish, does my behavior get me what I want? Because quite frankly, I want something that's good for us.
Well, I really like your idea about goals, especially when you're talking about teenagers,
Yeah.
because it can be challenging, right? So before I react to some of the, like the moods and the this and the that, it's like I stop myself and I'm like, okay, what do I want to have a good day? What is my goal today? Do I want to be bonded? Do I want her to talk to me? Be open with me?
Right.
Do I want to know what's going on in this kid's life?
Yeah.
Because they will just clam up and shut up and not tell you anything if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
And so just ask yourself what your goal is. And that's the same thing is true when I'm talking about what I just got done talking about, when I should all over myself
Yeah.
and don't want to help family and I get frustrated. And I'm like, I'm busy enough as it is. I don't need more people like, you know, trying to take my time.
Right.
When you then are the voice of reason, which is irritating sometimes, but then I'll go away and I'll think about it. And it's like, what is the goal? The goal is to make the next generation of our family better.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to not keep passing on the chaos and the drama, right? The goal is that,
It's to end mental illness.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Because there's
goal.
like too much of it going on
Way too much.
in society.
Everywhere.
In society,
Yeah.
but among some of the people we love.
So when I ask myself, why is this my responsibility? That's why.
I love that.
Stay with us. When we come back, more on love. Welcome back. We are working through the Greek words for love, and we've talked about eros, of course, my favorite. And we
Big surprise.
talked about storge, which is love of family, and phileo, which is brotherly love. Well, today we're going to talk about philatia, which is self-love. And I love this new phrase I've come up with in the last year. It's, do you love food that loves you back?
Oh, yeah.
That doing the right thing is not because you should. It's not punishing. It's because you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that quote from Drew Carey.
Yeah.
That when you do the right thing, you should celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you treat the 4-year-old? Because, you know, the 4-year-old wants ice cream and churros and play video games for like 42 hours straight. You know, the 4-year-old wants what he or she wants when he or she wants it. But, you know, that's why God gave you parents, right? They're supposed to be your frontal lobes until yours actually develop.
Can you talk about that for a minute? Because I think that's so fascinating. So we say that a lot around the office. You know, if you talk about frontal lobes, you talk about, you know, your kids and making sure that their frontal lobes are developing properly. Well, what age do they end? Do they stop developing? And
Well, it's new research, brand new research. It's actually closer to 30.
Oh boy.
Wow.
To see, and, you know, I don't know for you, Natalie, if you're different at 25 than you were when you were 18.
Oh, I was.
But when I was 18, I was not that smart. I was just not making really great
It's funny
decisions.
that you say that, because I felt it changing at about 23, but I was still going through a lot of medical stuff. At 25, bam, it just like shifted.
Yeah.
So
I feel like people say that too, 25 and 30, and then after that it's just like...
Well, and let's just talk for a second how important that is. So the front third of your brain, largest in humans and any other animal, 30% of the human brain, 11% of the chimpanzee brain, 7% of your dog's brain, 3% of the cat's brain, 1% of the mouse's brain. It's the part of you that makes you human. It's involved in important things like focus and forethought and judgment and impulse control, planning, empathy, getting outside of your head into the head of other people, learning from the mistakes you make. And so when people talk about maturity, it's not, oh, you're mature. It's not that you don't make mistakes. It's you just don't make the same one over and over.
Well, and you're a better problem solver.
And what happens in the brain is there's this process called myelinization, where myelin, which is a white fatty substance, begins to surround the nerves. And when they become myelinated, they work like 100 times faster. And so your brain becomes more efficient. And myelinization actually starts at 2 months old in the occipital lobes in the back, which is why little babies around 3 or 4 months, when you look at them and smile, they smile back at you because they're really beginning to see you much better. They're more efficient visually. But it marches very slowly from the back of your brain, and it doesn't finish in the front until the middle to late 20s. And so the idea that a teenager at 18 is an adult, the insurance industry knew about that because they go, no, that's ridiculous. We need to charge them a lot more for their insurance because they're more likely to make mistakes. So isn't that interesting that the insurance industry, just looking at the math,
all they had to do is look at car accidents,
knew it before neuroscientists knew it. And so you want to do everything you can to protect it. And the problem is adolescence is such a vulnerable time because parents are starting to separate their supervision. The normal tasks of adolescence are independence and identity. So who am I separate from you? And oh, by the way, I want to make my own decisions. And that's why adolescence is so hard with a brain that is not fully developed. And then at 18, we often send them away to college. And that's often when they'll have their first psychotic episode, when they'll get depressed, have suicide behavior. And we're going, but they're an adult. And it's like, well, not really from a neuroscience standpoint.
So, and it's interesting. You've always told me that all of the time that I spent with Chloe was an investment. And I've always felt that way. I've always felt that all this time that I spend with her is an investment. And now that she's 15 and a half, and there are times where I get frustrated, most of it is my own hurt feelings. She's like leaving. But she's a really good kid, but I still worry. I worry that she's going to make these decisions. But what's interesting is that because of all that time I spent, and I made her feel safe, and I think that's the number one thing, made her feel safe in knowing that no matter what it is, it's better to come to us than to not come to us. And so, and all of a sudden she comes and she's like, I need to talk to you about, well, the way she approached it was she comes and she's like, Mom, I want to know that you were serious, that I can talk to you about anything. I can talk to you about hard stuff because I need to be able to do that now. And I was like, oh my God, like it worked. Like she actually, and so I was like, oh, like my heart's pounding, but I'm like, oh, of course. And so if you invest in that, your kids will begin to trust you. But if you shut them down or tell them they're wrong for how they feel, they will not.
Or try to fix them.
Listening,
or try to fix it.
So we're talking about self-love and taking care of your relationships. I know I feel the best when you and I are close. And I am not happy. It's actually really rare when we're not close.
Me too. It feels really off.
Taking care of your relationships is clearly one way to take care
of yourself.
Taking care of your brain is a major way of taking care of yourself.
And I always want to differentiate self-care from self-centeredness. There is a difference. So I always think of it like this. Like I've been very, very sick. So my values are God, health, family. And family comes after health. So that's self-care. I can't take care of my family if I am not healthy.
Right.
Like if I am sick, if I am dying or a burden to other people.
Right.
So I can't do that. That's self-care because I want to be my best for the people I love. Mm-hmm. Self-centeredness is very different. That's where my world revolves around me. You know, I'm going to leave my kids, my teenagers at home so they can party because I want to go to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Like that's self-centeredness.
Right.
There's a big difference.
Right.
You're so smart.
Well, that actually should be fairly obvious, but in our society, it's not.
But just to back,
Common sense is not that common.
just to back off what you said, Daniel, and Tana, you also mentioned this as well, is that, you know, you need to care for yourself, you need to learn to love and care for your brain. Well, what are some things that people can do today, aside from visiting Amen clinics, to have a better brain in life?
Well, that could be a great thing.
And could be a great life, yes.
So we actually have a review I didn't read. 3 Steps to Defeat Negative Thoughts by Delene's Boy. What a marvelous idea to stop negative thoughts. My biggest issue. I will put this plan to work. I will have to buy lots of paper and ink. Clyde Glenn. Thank you, Clyde. And so self-love is one, knowing what you want, behaving in a way to get you what you want, loving your brain. And our little tiny habit for loving your brain takes 3 seconds. You just ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? And then you just need to know the list and not believing every stupid thing you think. Taking time to just focus on taking care of yourself. Like when you take time to meditate, to pray, to work out, that's
Self-love,
good
for sure.
for you. But it's totally good for me because she's happier. And
So are you saying
too often,
it's self-love for you when you tell me go work out?
yes, I'm taking care of myself. Right?
Because I'm not that fun to be around.
Stressed. So this is especially true for women. Is they're so other focused. And you remember when you read the research about how having a baby changes a female brain?
It
and
does.
then going through menopause changes it back.
Yeah.
so
it's
they go
really
from
fascinating. So what happens is your brain becomes estrogenized, right? So you get pregnant and your brain becomes estrogenized, and that's why you begin to nest. It's why you all of a sudden are focused on your family, especially your baby. That's where the mama bear thing comes in. So you all of a sudden, it's like, you'll do anything to keep your nest together and safe. You'll put up with stuff you would never put up with from everyone in your family because your number one goal, keep family safe. That's like, it's like a neon sign in your head. Keep family together, keep family safe. But then what happens is, it's so interesting that typically it's around menopause that your kids begin to leave the nest. It's like an interesting dynamic, although now women are having kids later. But it's typically around menopause, kids begin to leave the nest, and all of a sudden the brain becomes de-estrogenized and becomes testosterone dominant.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all the stuff that you used to put up with and didn't bother you that much
Triggers you.
Oh, you're just like, get out of my face. It's about me now. So all of you go away.
That's actually a time where a lot of divorces happen.
And women, so that's the myth. The myth was that they thought men were going out finding younger women and men were filing for divorce. Not true. Most divorces are filed by women.
75%.
At that age.
Wow.
It's at that age, that
Wow.
stage.
Wow.
They're done.
Guys,
They're done.
you want to support the hormone therapy
Yes.
that she wants to do with the integrative or functional
Yeah, no,
medicine
I often
doctor.
say that now I don't need it because I've had a hysterectomy, but before, like I often said, like for 10 years, I took progesterone so that I didn't end up on the evening news. Like no joke. Like I was like, I did not want to be divorced and I did not want to end up on the evening news. So it just,
Why would you have been on the evening news?
dear Lord, I was so, like, I would just be prickly all of a sudden and stuff. Like I'd be fine. And then all of a sudden, like that time.
Would you chase people on the freeway?
No, no. I'm not that dumb because I know they have guns, so I'm not going to do that. But I would think it. I like have this issue in my head, like I like the language that comes out of my mouth in my car, not to other people, but
All right.
yeah.
Self-love. Stay with us. We're going to talk about agape when we come back. Welcome back. We have been talking about the Greek words for love and trying to increase the love in your life. And brain warriors, it's not hard. People go, oh, I don't want to be a warrior. And it's like it's a war. So you want to be armed, prepared, and aware.
So I have a question. If you don't want to be a warrior, what do you want to be? If you don't want to be kind of a badass, then what do you want to be?
So what's the gardener quote?
Yeah, so I love this one quote in martial arts. I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Like, I don't understand. Like, I guess my brain can't register. I totally get wanting to be a peaceful warrior, but why, what, do you want to be a victim of what's going on around you? I kind of understand.
So let's talk about selfless love. But before we get to that, another review, informative and entertaining by Raputa 1. This is great information for anyone who is interested in how the brain works and how to live a better life. Daniel Amen is a renowned physician and researcher. Thank you. And together with his wife, Tana, he delivers an educational, entertaining podcast every day. What could be ponderous and dry information is so creatively and joyfully presented that I look forward to each episode.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
That's so cool.
Thank you so much.
I think she's trying to say we're crazy, but
Now, where would you get that?
we're entertaining.
We are entertaining. You entertain me all the time.
Oh,
I
it's
cannot
me now. Okay.
say in all the ways, but you are.
Really? We're talking about love, not sex today.
I was thinking, why would your mind
Because
go
I know
there?
you. That's why. Look, Natalie's blushing.
no.
Okay, she's
So
like,
that's why
Back to agape.
That's why I'm a child psychiatrist, because I
You are
frequently
adolescent,
act like
yes.
a child.
because you're very adolescent.
So agape is the highest form of love. It's not about you. It's about generations of you. So why is the world a better place because you breathe?
Yeah, we don't see a lot of this in society right now.
Well, we don't see it because we don't look for it. So I actually so tired of the negative news.
Yeah,
cycle.
that's what I mean.
I actually have an app called the Good News Network.
I like that.
And I look at it every day because
I know, I often see you giggling. It's so funny.
It's fun. And where I bring my attention will determine how I feel.
Yeah.
So if
It's
it's
the
about
news is terrible.
Washington or, the shooting or the
Yeah.
war or, the hurricane, I mean, it just makes you feel anxious and upset. There's so many good things that are happening moment by moment in the world that if you focus on it and you contribute to it, you're actually happier.
Tana, you said something to me a couple years ago, and I have held it dear ever since. Every morning when Tana wakes up, she shared the story with me, and she told me that in the morning is her special time. And it used to be her time with Chloe, and I'm sure it still is, but they would have no phones, no distractions. You wouldn't take any calls. You wouldn't put on any morning news. And it was just your time to wake up and have your coffee, your tea, whatever you were drinking together. And ever since then, I just thought, wow, I don't want to take calls from people immediately in the morning, whether that's like that first 30 minutes, because it really sets the tone for the day. So you might get a call and you might kind of absorb those emotions that you get on the call. It might be a negative email, whatever it is.
Happens
and then
that fast.
it happens in the blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden your day, your foundation for the day is cracky.
So I started that when Chloe was very little because there's just was constant drama, like family drama. And so I decided I shut my phone off and I literally told everyone in advance, don't call me unless you are bleeding out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear from you until 9 o'clock unless you are bleeding out. That's my time. Chloe, I want to set the day up for Chloe to have a really positive day. I mean, school's hard enough, right? So I want to set the day to be really positive. We'd go for a drive. We'd have coffee. Now we all have coffee together because she homeschools.
Yeah.
And still I follow that rule. Do not call me before 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to hear it.
I love that.
So
It's so powerful.
So according to the research, passion and purpose, so I think of that as agape, is associated with less depression, more happiness, more personal growth, better sleep, longevity, increase in mental sharpness, less risk of Alzheimer's disease, and slower cognitive decline with age. Hans Selye is a very famous historical figure in stress research. And he actually had a term that I loved. It's called egoistic altruism. It's like, I give away my love, my treasure, my care, because ultimately it decreases my stress.
Right.
And this is going to sound terrible, and some of you aren't going to believe me, but I say it with my patients all the time. Everyone's out for themselves.
Yeah.
It's just the more sophisticated they are, the harder it is to tell. And you just want to make sure your interests are aligned. And when, you know, because we basically adopted our nieces and your sister. And when I went to Alizade's 8th grade, I guess it was 7th grade, her award ceremony, that was so much joy for me. It was sort of like a hit of a cocaine that just lasted and didn't have any side effects. When you texted me her straight A's yesterday, I love that, right? So doing the right thing can bring joy.
Well, and talking
if your
about
brain works right.
touching on what you just talked about with the altruism, it's the same reason that forgiveness has been shown to work to decrease your stress. Like when you forgive someone, it decreases your own stress hormones, which increases healing and decreases depression and anxiety. So that's why we often say, if you won't forgive someone for them, if that's too hard for you, will you do it for yourself? Because it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die if you don't forgive. So
that
by
would
helping,
be more self-love.
it is self-love, but it's also other love. So but in giving that away, you're also loving yourself. So it's actually this, I love the term you used, egoistic altruism. So because it's both.
Right.
So you initially you do it for yourself, but then you realize as you let go
how many other people it's helping,
which then in turn helps you more.
Right.
And one thing that would be useful for you to do at home or wherever you're at is to come up with a purpose statement for your life. You know, businesses have mission statements. Unfortunately, families often don't.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Ours at Amen Clinics is our why, our passion, our purpose is to help people achieve brain healthy lives in every way possible, no matter what their age or problem. So what is your mission statement? What is it that you really want? You have to tell your frontal lobes that. And then you say, is my behavior getting me what I want? And most people, it's not totally self-centered, at least if they're happy people. The ones where it's totally self-centered, you know, I want to win a Grammy and I want to get an Oscar and I want to have $1 billion in the bank. That's really all about them.
Right.
And they're not going to be nearly as happy as if it's they and other centered.
Well, and so we don't want to detract from the fact that people have experienced trauma, they've experienced pain. And one of the things I love that we did in Brain Warriors Way, which was my favorite book that we wrote, was we did exercises in there to turn your pain to purpose. There's not only there's no better way for you to heal. You've certainly done that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Natalie's in a wheelchair and you would never know it because that chair doesn't define you. I forget all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny. I mean, it's almost like, I don't mean to be insulting to you. I just forget about the chair.
Yeah.
And so when you take your pain and you turn it into purpose, not only does it heal you, but now you're helping to heal other people through the pain you've experienced, and you've managed to, it becomes your
and
purpose.
then it takes meaning.
It takes meaning.
Like when we talked to Sandra a couple
About
of weeks
grief.
ago about grief.
Right, when she lost her daughter.
So what is meaningful in your life that you can share with others? Viktor Frankl is just one of my
favorite books. Yeah.
Heroes. He was a psychiatrist, and he actually had a visa to the United States from Austria in 1937, 38. But he decided to stay for his parents. He was a Jewish psychiatrist who ended up in a concentration camp and ended writing this really historic book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he basically says, if it's meaningful, I'll do it. If it's not meaningful, I don't have time for it. And he said you can create meaning in 3 ways: purposeful work or being productive, loving the people who are central in your life, and courage in the face of difficulty, which totally defines you, right? You actually have all 3 of those, right? You have purposeful work because we work together. You have a love who's central in your life, plus you love your family, and you clearly have courage in the face of difficulty.
Absolutely.
And so it's not woe is me. It's how can I be my best and give back.
My favorite picture is of you walking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I sent, a couple of weeks ago, I went to my grandma's house, and one of the things that was really hard when I was going through my accident, when I broke my neck, I didn't want any photos taken of me because I was in so much pain, and I just didn't want it. My grandma, she snuck some in, and I'm actually really grateful that she did that because she created scrapbooks each year, and each scrapbook has photos from some of my hardest times. And for now, today, it's so nice to be able to look back. Like, I took my boyfriend and we actually went through them, and he was just like, oh my God.
Your journey was...
I can't even, first of all, I can't even fathom it. Second of all, look how far you've come. And I think a lot of people tell you, oh, don't look back. You're not going that way. But sometimes it's really important to look back to see how far you've come.
Yeah, so I think that's so brilliant. And you sent me 2 photos. I guess you were going through those scrapbooks.
Yeah.
And one of them was when you were leaving the hospital, and you just looked like this precious little nugget. You looked so young.
Braces and all.
But you couldn't move. Your arms were down.
Nothing,
and you
couldn't move anything.
couldn't feel, couldn't move. And the next one was of you walking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that was just so powerful. You were standing so tall and so strong. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Something you were told you would never do.
I know.
But you were also told you'd never go to college because you couldn't live alone. You would never drive, and you do all of those things.
Right.
And it's so easy to say it's not fair. But
life is not fair.
When you compare it against so many things, there is not fairness.
No one said life was going to be fair. I don't know who told people that.
And you taught me this, which I dearly love, that responsibility doesn't mean it's your fault.
Right.
What it means is your ability to respond.
Take 100% so that you have more control over the outcome.
Stay with us.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're interested in coming to Amen Clinics, use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.